Hi, welcome to Rain Computers here in our secret laboratory in the tropics that are North Norfolk. Okay, hang on a minute. This project's got a little bit big, so we've decided to split it into two parts. We didn't want to lose any of the detail. We wanted to give enough time to everything that we were looking at so you could see what's going on. So this is part one. It's mostly about DAW software, and in part two we're going to talk mostly about the emulator. So for the link for part two is below. Thank you. Today we're looking at Windows 8 and multi-touch. That's the international sign for multi-touch. And we're going to be looking at how Windows 8 and multi-touch can have an impact on music production. We know that the iPad has demonstrated just how powerful multi-touch can be in this sort of situation, but what would it look like if it was bolted directly in to your system, so it's part of your recording environment on a proper big screen? You know, how would that be? How would that work? So that's what we're looking at today. And you know, Windows 8, is it for kids or is it the production tool of the future with multi-touch? We shall see. Let's have a look. When it comes to touch interfaces, the world is mostly focused on tablets and phones. With the introduction of Windows 8, with hybrid laptops and the Microsoft Surface, we've been offered the possibility of using touch with more than tablet-style apps. However, it seems that very little attention has been paid to the possibilities of touch on a powerful desktop machine. In one of the few Windows 8 adverts where people are actually seen to be doing something with the software, we see an all-in-one desktop machine dumped onto a kid's easel, and the kid delights in drawing pictures and interacting very naturally. It hints at the potential of the technology, but reinforces the idea that it's really just for kids, which is a shame. The other factor is that decent multi-touch monitors have been very thin on the ground, and it wasn't until a couple of months after the release of Windows 8 was I able to get my hands on one at a sensible price, and designed for Windows 8 as opposed to some kind of perceptive pixel demo rig. I mean, do we really still get excited about pushing pictures around and pinch zooming into Google Maps? Anyway, I got myself an Acer 22-inch multi-touch screen, and I've been using it for a couple of months, and I must say, wow, what a fabulous thing. So what I want to show in this video is how Windows 8 and a multi-touch screen could be a seriously professional tool for music production. Only could be, because currently not many manufacturers have actually caught on. Probably they're too preoccupied with iPads and making apps to realise that you could have full touch control of their software on the same machine as the DAW without having to use another computer as a controller. But there is some stuff that's ahead of the curve, and some wizard bits of software that are doing it right now, whether they realise it or not. And although I'm focused on the desktop, this has a lot of pertinence to tablets and hybrids as well. First things first, no one in their right mind is going to want to use a touchscreen which is standing up in front of them, waving their arms around like some kind of Tom Cruise Minority Report character. No, you're going to want to lay it down at a sensible angle. Second, I've already got a decent screen that I use. Why not combine the two? So I've got a half touch and a half desktop setup. This for me makes the most amount of sense, and that will become clearer as I demonstrate the various bits of software. Isn't it all too easy to get distracted by all the Metro start screen nonsense? Nah. Actually, having a touchscreen right there has opened up the world of Metro apps, because I can run all my regular programs on the non-touchscreen, email, Word, accounting, Spotify, whatever, then I don't have the problem of Metro apps taking up the full screen suddenly. They have a screen of their own. So I can use the People app to keep track of Facebook, the Metro Tweet app to monitor Twitter, I can pull up news and articles, and it's all full screen and looking lovely. I've even got into IE10, which I didn't like to start with, but with touch you can pinch zoom and move it about the place, and the ergonomics make much more sense with your fingers. I also subscribe to Xbox Music, and I have an Xbox and a Windows Phone, and Xbox Music on Windows 8 is as good as any other music system I've used, and looks far lovelier than Spotify, iTunes or Napster. The only slightly stupid thing is that the start screen doesn't stay open, so if you click into your other screen, it drops to the last open app or to the desktop if nothing else is open, which is a shame because it could be showing me notifications in the live tiles. It needs like a lock open button or something. Right, let's start getting into the possibilities. The first thing to know is that multi-touch is not like single touch. It's not mouse emulation. This is what enables the multi side of touch, but it can also be a right pain in the arse in some areas. In a non-touch musical application, you can usually use single touches on all of the menus and items, but some faders and some knobs, or some of the mouse-controlled functions may react a bit strangely, or sometimes not at all. If you open up a virtual synth that has a virtual keyboard, you usually can't seem to press the keys as you can with a mouse click. But with touch, you can trigger a key if you slide your finger across it like a stylophone. This is a lot more obvious in Photoshop. You can use touch on everything except the actual image. So in Photoshop you can access different things. You can click on your buttons and select your different tools, and I can select my pencil tool, but then I can't draw on the page. You can see sort of the screen flashing a bit in response to my touch, but I can't do anything unless I come on from the side, and then it appears, it's there, like so. But once I let go, I can't get in, I can't do anything. The one place where you'd love to do some touching up with your finger, it just doesn't get recognised. Apparently it's the same issue using the included stylus on the Surface Pro, which adds to the oddness. I did get a chance to speak to Adobe about it briefly, and their angle is that it's all to do with APIs, that it's really too early to tell, there's no touch standard yet, and they're kind of waiting for Apple to join in, and they like their Wacom pen and touchscreen projects, which are gorgeous at about 10 times the price of my Acer screen. But with Photoshop Touch on the iPad, you've got to think it can't be too far away. And just as an aside, Windows Paint loves multi-touch and comes with Windows for free. But these sorts of mouse emulation issues do crop up in creative software, so if you are planning to go without a mouse and keyboard, it's really something you need to consider. So where is it working? Well, searching through the Windows Store we find very little, certainly no Animoogs or Korg M20s like on the iPad, but that's exactly missing the point. I have all the synths I want in my DAW software. I have acres of power to run dozens of analog synths and entire orchestras simultaneously. So I either want my DAW to be multi-touch, or I want some multi-touch software that can control my non-touch software. Well, let's start with multi-touch compatible DAW software. Currently, the only DAW I'm aware of that has support for Windows 8 multi-touch is Sonar X2. Cakewalk released the X2a update just before Christmas and are trying to create a bit of fuss about multi-touch. You should check out their website for some really cool videos showing what they've done. Let's have a deeper look into Sonar. So we have a closer look at various elements of Sonar. You've got your pinch to zoom in and out and go like that, and then pinch and you're in. Yeah, that's all good, that all works. Track and timeline and track and all that kind of thing. Yeah, excellent. You know, all your buttons work and stuff over here, no problem. If we look at the console, you can see the faders here. I can grab as many as I can grab. You can see those go up and down. Pan as well. And it's multi-touch, means I can do more than one thing at a time if I can grab it right. On the Pro channel, the EQ, yeah, I can move all that about. These give a bit of a rotary thing going on, which is good, but I can't do anything in here. which is a bit frustrating. I can with a mouse, I think. Yeah, see, I can with a mouse, but I can't do that. Yes, I can do that with a finger. Ah! So I'm talking rubbish then. You can, you just got to really grab it, and then it's a bit weird. Oh! Okay, so I don't really know what's happening there. Not to worry. Let's have a look back in our view here, which is great that I can zoom in. What I can't do, I can't do anything with it. So I could select my pen tool or my slice tool or whatever, but it doesn't do anything. I can't move these clips. I can't slice them. I can't do anything like that. I can't. Similarly, I can't draw an envelope, volume envelope. If I bring my mouse in, I can draw all over the place, but I can't draw with my finger, which is a shame. So there are elements you can do, there's elements you can't do, there's bits which sort of work a bit strangely, but there's no doubt you've got multi-touch on the faders, which is awesome. And you've got this zoom thing going on. This apparently is just the start. So we'll look forward to more. This is one of those weird mouse emulation issues. In Sonar you can't touch the automation curve or move anything in the project window like you can with a mouse. But in Cubase, which isn't touch enabled, you can draw in the automation with your finger. You can move, slice, arrange and do all the normal mouse stuff with a single touch. It's odd that Sonar can't do that. The other place for multi-touch is in the matrix view, which is like a sample player or looper, a bit like Ableton Live, and that's very cool and it works a treat. And I love the fact that Cakewalk have done this, and the potential really leaps off the screen. It's a really good start, but I want more. One thing that's immediately obvious to me is that the current Sonar GUI is not really very suited to touch, and I think in order to make it ergonomic and useful, you need an alternative touch GUI. The faders are short, they don't go very far, the knobs are tiny, I've got fat fingers, and on the 10-inch HD screen of the Microsoft Surface Pro, the controls are going to be hard to put a finger on. As there's no tactile feedback, you sometimes have no idea if your fingers are on the faders or not, and you can't see the faders because your fingers are in the way. It needs to be a lot more Fisher-Price, it needs to be chunky and obvious. And this is true of all the DAWs I've tried. I spoke to Cakewalk about some of these issues and they stress that this is the beginning of something and there's a lot more goodies to come and a lot more development in the pipeline. So Sonar is definitely going to be the one to watch. Let's have a brief look at what does and doesn't work in a couple of other DAWs and see what you can do with a single touch. Cubase, as we've seen, does seem to be able to handle single touch really well. The new Super Looney large mixer console is ideal for fingers, and all the automation, arranging of blocks, buttons, functions, they all really work well. What's not so great is some of the weirdness with the virtual instruments in playing the keys and bits and pieces like that. Ableton Live 9, clip launching, no problem, tap it, it works. You can also move the clips around in the arrange session. Other things become difficult really quickly though. That's all very easy. What's not quite as good is the mixer. If you grab a handle as you can, quite easily, it kind of zooms up and down without you really moving anything. You can't get very easily to a middle place, so it just goes whang, whap. Same as on pan as well, it just shoots between maximum and minimum or left and right without really much in the way of control. You can tap so that brings it up, which is a good compromise, but it's not great on that. But other things, buttons work, solo, mute, etc works. Looking in the arrange page, it's a little bit fiddly, but you can move blocks around, you can double click and add notes and move notes about, that kind of thing, without too much trouble. You can select areas, very easy, you can open things, but again with the automation is a bit like the volume fader in that you sort of grab it and suddenly it's maximum or minimum. There's very hard to get any control in between. There's no gesture control, there's no zoom in and zoom out as such, although using 2 fingers seems to scroll it, which is a bit odd, but never mind. But you do have this good scroll wheel at the top, but again, it's sort of maximum and minimum, there's no in between. So there's really good parts that work, and there's bits that really kind of don't at the moment. So that's Ableton Live. Oh yeah, there was another bit. I can grab hold of that and control it perfectly. So that part works, but then when I go to a knob, it's maximum, minimum all the time. You can just about sort of let it go and get something in between, but it's more often than not going to zoom about. So yeah, some bits do and some bits don't. Pro Tools 10, this is a bit more like it. Everything appears to work like a mouse. Let's have a look. I can move clips about. I can, if I'm really careful, grab the edge of it sometimes and move it in and out, but not all the time. Yeah, there you go. I can add notes into this bit here. As you can see, absolutely no notes going on there. That's because I need to select my tool, pencil tool. There we go. And I can add notes like so. I can also, if I get my my tool back, I can move audio around as well, and add to volume. I can pencil. I can draw in curves and volume changes as well. That's all very good. If I switch to the mixer view, then single touch mixing is completely fine. Nothing weird like in live. Everything works as expected. Plugins and such like. Yeah, no problem. So lots of functionality on a single touch, but of course only single touch. Nothing else going on there. But none of the weird mouse stuff that we've seen with other software. Cool. The 3-function mouse tool doesn't really work because you can't sort of hover with a touchscreen, but otherwise functionality is good. It just needs everything to be bigger. Reason 6, I haven't got my hands on the new version 7 yet, but it looks like there have been very few changes to the GUI. This is really interesting because everything works sort of really well. I mean, the mixture of course is fiddly, we'll have a look at that in a bit more, but everything works to a single touch. So I can go to the rack, and whatever it is, I can move it without any trouble. And the mixer obviously is fiddly because it's small, but it's so clearly laid out. This is one of the Reason 6 sort of real features, is that actually it's easy. And because every knob goes up and down with your finger, it's quite easy to use. The sidebar, this bit here that scrolls up and down, is ideal, absolutely ideal. So you're not trying to scroll on the actual window yourself, you're scrolling up and down the side, which is a great feature. So then you can get to exactly what it is you're trying to control. The buttons are fiddly, of course they are, so that could do with being bigger, but because you're moving your finger away all the time, you can see what's going on. So it's, you know, it's not too bad. It's not too bad at all. There's no unexpected jumping around or anything crazy. It just, yeah, it just works, which is good. If you go back to the rack, everything in the rack works, so you know you can turn it over Again, we use the scroll up and down here to zoom about, but you can rewire it with your fingers very easily. Boom, boom, boom. And then down to the sequencer window, you can move stuff about, you can get closer to it, pick up a pencil tool and I can draw stuff in. All of that is all there. So Reason is really set up for being a touchable thing. So it's the one thing I think you could use on a tablet immediately. You could stick it on a Surface Pro and off you go, and there's no need to have a mouse or a keyboard attached. You can do the whole lot with a finger. Only one finger, so it's not there yet. You know, if they introduce multi-touch, then that could be a huge thing, because this is definitely the program that's crying out for it. You know, it's the one most capable at the moment, I think. But we shall see. Will they listen to me? I have no idea. But yeah, that all works really well. So all Propellerheads need to do is enable multi-touch and let you magnify the thing you want to work on. Then it would be superb. So with Reason, Cubase, Pro Tools, you could right now, without a mouse, still be creative, still get some music done. With Live and Sonar, there's lots you couldn't do, but there are aspects that work really well. One thing Cakewalk insisted was that they're not trying to replace the keyboard and mouse, they're trying to use multi-touch to augment it. And that's actually a really valid point, because the beauty of a desktop studio machine is that you have a mouse, you have a keyboard, so why not use those, why not integrate them? So it doesn't have to be an entirely multi-touch environment. It doesn't have to work on a tablet or the Microsoft Surface. The point is that we're in a studio environment where we have access to all of these tools, and so we should use all of them. But in every case, the GUI needs a bit of a rethink if it's going to be really useful with multi-touch. That's the end of part 1. For part 2, which continues straight after, there's a link below.